Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next The Promised Neverland anime review. This one's going to be for episode 6, and I thought this was another solid episode. I don't think it was as good as last week's episode, just with the tension that was going on there, the explanation. This one obviously was more, if you really wanted to focus in on the core of what came out of this episode, it was them telling Don and Gilda the truth, and the emotions behind that were, I think, well done, and it had a nice resolution with regards to, in the end, them all realizing that they sort of all made mistakes. Norman, Ray, and Emma should have told them earlier, but at the same time, Don and Gilda shouldn't have, basically not listened to should have listened to everyone and not gone into the room, because it was putting the whole plan at risk. So in the end, they're kind of now all on the same page. We now have kind of 5 people in the know, and that's a success overall, but there is also sort of a 6th now, because the cliffhanger at the end of this episode is that Sister Crone is onto them. She's overheard their conversations, but she wants them basically she wants to join forces with them. Obviously we know she wants Isabella's job, so is she willing to assist them with an escape to make Isabella look bad? That's the big kind of question here of where do her loyalties ultimately lie? Is she just acting like she's on their side to ultimately getting good with Isabella, or is she truly against her? That's a nice cliffhanger, because I'd say it's a slight criticism of the last episode and maybe just the show overall. What this episode basically revealed to us about the cliffhanger from last week, that it was basically nothing. Phil walked into the room, and then they do basically the exact same thing they do in the manga, which is then they go out, try and get the key. Don steals the key by pickpocketing Isabella. Then they go in. I just thought that was unnecessary. I get, in this style of show, you want to usually have some sort of a cliffhanger at the end of every episode, but you can't do that too often. To just complete fake out of just someone's walking into the room. Yeah, and especially in an adaptation as well, this just didn't come across very well. I don't think it's a huge problem, but forcibly kind of making up cliffhangers like that, when if you paced things differently, you could have honestly had that as an actual cliffhanger at a different point. But it was just kind of weird that they did that, then they had to go out of the room, get the key, and then more or less have a very similar thing happen later on in the episode where they're worried they're going to be caught as well. But what happens is that they go in there, they find the different secret passages, they go down another bookcase, and eventually find their way to, obviously, the communications station. But the key reveal in all of this is ultimately that they find Little Bunny, Connie's bunny toy. And this is what confirms to them that, okay, Emma and everyone are telling them the truth, that something's happened. But they kind of take it further here in that, look at the amount of toys from the amount of, our siblings that have been shipped out. There's something else going on here, and Dawn really begins to understand that they haven't just been taken away, human trafficking, that they're gone, because logically, even if they were taken away, the bunny would still have gone with them. But the fact that the bunny is still here, it kind of confirms to him, without knowing the full details, that something kind of deeper is at play here, and got the whole distrust angle that they were going for with this episode in play. And like I said at the start, I ultimately liked how they did it. I don't think it's the best conflict in an episode I've ever seen, just because the whole idea of them not trusting them was sort of proven a little bit, that because Don and Gilda went off on their own and did put the plan at risk despite being told not to, sort of proves in a way why they would hesitate about telling them the full truth, just in case they did something like that. So it was sort of a learning situation from both sides, in that I suppose Don realizes he has to be a bit more careful about things if he wants to be involved in everything, be more relaxed about the plan. and listen to what Ray has to say here, and he understands why Ray was so angry in the end. But rightfully so, is frustrated that, I suppose the others kind of deemed him in a way not good enough to tell the truth to, and they, Norman, Ray, and Emma all understood that, in keeping it to ourselves, it is kind of placing us in like a position kind of above them, that we didn't feel the need to incorporate them in. But in the end, there's a nice resolution. They're all on the same page now, and Don and Gilda did get in there and out without causing any problem. They solved the little issues along the way. They're going to be important going forward, definitely. So I like that we kind of have like kind of new additions to, I suppose, in a way, like the main cast. Like we now have like 5 really notable kids, but then they've been also kind of subtly in the background kind of building up Phil as like the most intelligent in a way of like the slightly younger kids, in that he's the one who actually brings to Emma's attention the whole William Minerva thing in the books, which is a really cool mystery that's kind of been set up here, with the idea that, okay, they get their books from obviously the outside world. They really have no idea how the book publishing kind of industry or anything like that works. The only thing they have to go on is that, okay, the furthest year that they've seen in a book when the book was published is 2015. That means that, someone fairly recently, because they know roughly, like, I suppose what year it is, put this note in the book with this Morse code on it. So there's someone like active out there somewhere who's aware of what's going on in the house that is a farm, and the details of that, and they are supplying information into the house via this kind of system. And they begin to sort of figure this out. They translate everything, and it just, especially the word farm, I think is the key word here that kind of confirms to us that, like, okay, this is someone who knows the secret of the house. It's not just random words. That is very specific in the context of what the other words were as well. I suppose the other thing is that they find this adventure book that doesn't have Morse code on it, that seems to be important, as well as the word promise being on another book. And this is obviously, they're taking this as someone is giving them sort of advice from the outside, and it gives them hope that there's something for them on the outside, because they address the plan of, like, there's the escape, but there's the key part that they don't know about, which is what is actually on the outside. Because they're in a bad situation if they just go outside and they're just flat out in the middle of demon territory. They've just walked into a complete demon society, and their food, that they're going to be killed immediately if they're not prepared for what's going on. This at least confirms that someone who is able to, like, affect how books get into the house, a human, is helping them somehow, and that's a pretty notable point. So I was really happy to see that was a really interesting part of the manga, and I think they did a good job of it here with visually showing it and them figuring it out, giving them hope about what's to come. And there's another scene with Norman and Emma again talking about the whole idea of, do you think it's reckless for me to want to get everyone out in the escape attempt? And Norman saying, yeah, it's fine. I think Ray ultimately wants that too. But then you have the reality that Ray and Norman talked about this previously, and it was one of the kind of caveats that Ray put in play to assist Norman to tell the full truth, was that you need to back me up on the idea that we can't get everyone out. So that's a thing that is going to have to come to light eventually, the realism of the escape, the reality of the escape, and how it's very, very unlikely that this is going to be able to work in the way they want it to, because they have so many young kids, babies, basically. Another little thing was that we saw, I suppose, the setup of some of the kind of distraction aspects of the plan. While they're investigating the outside, they're kind of sending Mom on a wild goose chase with all this, like, oh, Norman's trying to poison you, and so on. And in that scene, we also learned that they basically have a month left. Like, there's no shipment coming, like, this month, I think they say. But then Ray is like, okay, so that means the next shipment is in January. and that means, my 12th birthday, I'm the next one on the way out, haven't I? So, it sets the timeline in place that there's not too long left, and again, that the stakes at play here are that it's very, very important that the most intelligent of this group here, which is obviously Ray, Emma, and Norman, it's very important that they be harvested eventually at the exact moment for this, what is it? It's this, like, festival, like, ceremony for this, basically, like, god or lord of whatever this kind of demon culture is. So, if they don't get harvested, this is going to be a big problem. So, that's an important setup to keep in mind throughout all of this, is just, like, that Norman, Emma, and Ray are all, like, prime food when it comes to, like, what the demons actually want. And then, yeah, the cliffhanger, like I said earlier on, is Sister Crone revealing to them that she is onto their plan. And as I said, this is going to be very interesting because she is, of course, if she's actually helping them, going to be able to give them a lot of information that they won't have otherwise, in terms of she's a human working with the demon. She's part of this system. She can reveal to them a lot that they don't know, if that is in fact the case, in terms of how did she become a, like, mom in training, basically, and what does that actually mean? And in doing so, that gives you context for, like, what Isabella is, like, has obviously had a similar past to that as well, and so on. So I'm very impressed with, this anime in general, and the setup of where things are going. I don't think this was the greatest episode of the show, but it's going along very, very nicely, and they're obviously building to this big escape attempt, and there's a lot of, this character knows this going on, plus the little kind of lies that are being told in all of this. Isabella versus Crone, Norman sort of planning something, Ray planning something. Will Emma, become a little bit more realistic about the nature of the escape attempt, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about this one. That's my review for episode 6 of The Promised Neverland. In the comment, let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.